Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Whatever time zone you're in right now, welcome back to Sip&Talk. I'm Sunny.
And I'm Joe. Welcome back, Sip&Talkers. We are in such a great mood today, and I really think you've definitely had this exact experience we're going to talk about.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
Right. So picture this. You're in a coffee shop, maybe here in Washington, D.C., or, out in San Francisco.
Yeah, just waiting for your morning latte.
Exactly. You're in line, and you notice someone rushing in looking like super stressed out. So you politely step aside.
Because that's just what you do.
Right. You smile, you gesture for them to go ahead. You're fully expecting a quick thank you or like a friendly nod. But instead, they just look at you.
And it is not a look of gratitude, is it?
Not at all. It's this glare. They walk past you with this crazy air of superiority. It's like they're looking at you as if your politeness just proved you were somehow inferior to them.
It is such an incredibly jarring experience because, you're offering this baseline of horizontal equality, and they just respond with vertical dominance.
Yes, it completely breaks the unspoken social contract we're used to operating under. And that friction is exactly what we're unpacking in today's chat.
It's a really fascinating intersection of sociology and psychology. We're looking at all these case studies today to figure out why, in certain cultural contexts, politeness is just straight up misinterpreted as weakness.
And how everyday interactions turn into this aggressive, what the research calls boundary testing.
Right. So we're going to explore the historical, the psychological, and the institutional roots of this behavior. We really need to look at why rapid wealth doesn't instantly create a civic culture.
It definitely doesn't.
Exactly. And we'll compare how different societies in East Asia have evolved differently. The whole mission here is to understand how the invisible political rules we live under quietly program how we treat strangers.
So to understand why a simple act of courtesy like, just giving up your spot in line can backfire so spectacularly, we have to look at how different cultures mentally map their worlds.
Yeah, and a really great framework for this comes from a Dutch sociologist named Geert Hofstede. He developed something called the Power Distance Index.
The Power Distance Index. Okay, so what does that actually measure?
It basically measures how much a society expects and accepts inequality in power. It's about how comfortable a population is with strict hierarchies.
So it's like a structural wiring thing.
Exactly. It goes way deeper than just personal preference. To give you a point of comparison, the U.S. scores around a 40 on this index.
Which means we lean toward egalitarianism.
Right. Our society generally values equality. We operate on the assumption that, the CEO and the intern have fundamentally equal human worth, even if their paychecks are wildly different.
Sure. But what about, say, China?
China scores around an 80 on this index.
Wow. Double the score. That is a massive difference in how someone views the world.
It changes the entire social calculus. In environments with a score that high, which are often shaped by traditional hierarchical systems and, frankly, long-term authoritarian governance, the society is highly structured.
Right. So when a person raised in that specific environment meets someone new, they aren't scanning the room for horizontal equality.
No, they are navigating on a strictly vertical axis. Their brain is running this rapid subconscious calculation.
Like, are you above me or are you below me?
Exactly. So if you present yourself with unconditional courtesy and humility in that vertical coordinate system, you aren't seen as polite.
You're translated as adopting a low-status posture.
Yes. You're basically broadcasting, I have low status. And unfortunately, that perceived low status often triggers a desire to control or dominate in the person who suddenly thinks they're the higher up.
Man, that's wild. And this is further complicated by something sociologists call the social trust deficit, right?
Oh, for sure. The trust deficit is huge here. Think about environments where there is a lack of robust, independent rule of law, or where getting resources is opaque and based entirely on personal connections.
Right, where you only get ahead if you know a guy.
Exactly. In those places, unconditional kindness is highly suspicious. It's viewed as a high-risk trap.
Like, why are you being nice to me? What do you want?
Yep. If a stranger is being nice without an obvious transactional reason, the assumption is either they want something from you or they are incredibly naive and easy to exploit.
If I try to map this onto an analogy, it feels a bit like animal behavior in the wild.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Right. So think about a dog park. If a wolf rolls over and exposes its soft underbelly in a safe domestic setting like our local dog parks, that's a gesture of play. It means, I trust you.
But if you take that exact same behavior into the actual jungle...
Right. In the jungle, where there are no rules protecting you and resources are super scarce, exposing your soft underbelly isn't a friendly hello. It is a literal invitation to be eaten.
Yeah, in that environment, aggressive posturing is just pure survival instinct. The jungle versus the dog park is a really fitting way to look at it.
Because politeness is essentially an evolutionary luxury.
Right.
It requires a safe, predictable environment like our democratic norms here.
Exactly. So when you take someone programmed for the jungle and drop them into a society that defaults to soft underbellies, like, polite customer service in the West, their survival instinct misreads the room completely.
But wait, if these individuals are suddenly stepping into high-trust, horizontal societies, say, as tourists traveling abroad, why does that instinct persist? You'd think they would just relax.
You would think so, but instead it leads to a phenomenon the research calls boundary testing, and it can be highly disruptive to witness.
Boundary testing. Okay, break that down for us.
Because these individuals learn to survive by pushing aggressively to extract the maximum benefit from zero-sum environments, they naturally push into what they perceive as low-defense zones.
Like the barista or the hotel clerk who is professionally obligated to smile at them no matter what.
Right. They will push, demand more, and act aggressively right up until they hit a hard boundary.
And what happens when they hit that hard boundary?
That's the remarkable part. The moment they encounter a hard boundary, usually in the form of law enforcement or a strict rule backed by real consequences, they instantly fold. The aggression just vanishes.
Okay, let's look at the AirAsia flight incident for the case studies because it perfectly maps onto this vertical mindset.
Oh, the hot water incident. Yeah, that one is crazy.
So this involved a couple on a budget flight from Thailand to China. They were super upset because they couldn't sit together. The flight attendant stepped in and used standard, polite de-escalation tactics.
Notice the dynamic there, though. The flight attendants were offering soft boundaries. They were trying to negotiate horizontally.
Right. And because the attendants were polite, the passengers interpreted it as weakness. So the situation escalated completely out of control.
They literally threw scalding hot water and noodles at a Thai flight attendant.
Yes. And the man even threatened to bomb the plane. I mean, it sounds like an extreme overreaction to us. But if you look closely at what happened next, it totally proves the boundary testing theory.
Because the plane makes an emergency landing back in Bangkok.
Exactly. Thai police board the aircraft, and suddenly that soft boundary of customer service is totally gone. They hit the hard boundary of the Thai legal system.
And the very real threat of criminal charges.
Yep. And instantly, the bomb threats stop. The couple completely folds, they apologize on the spot, and they pay a massive fine to avoid jail time.
It's exactly that mindset. You're soft, so I'll step on you. You're hard, so I'll back down. We saw the exact same dynamic in the Sweden hostel incident, too.
Oh, man, that story was wild. That adds such a fascinating layer to this whole psychology.
It really does. So a tourist and his family arrived at a hostel in Stockholm in the middle of the night, long before their actual check-in time.
And the staff politely let them wait in the lobby, right? Again, a soft boundary.
Right. But then the tourists started pushing it, trying to bring strangers in off the street. When the hostel finally drew a line and called the police, the tourist engaged in this bizarre, highly theatrical display.
Because the Swedish police were calmly carrying him out. They weren't using excessive force or anything.
Not at all. Yet the tourist threw himself on the ground, doing this fake falling thing and screaming in English, "This is killing!"
It's just the absolute weaponization of victimhood. But what I want to understand is the mechanism here. Why does an aggressor suddenly think playing the victim will work against a hard boundary?
It all comes back to that vertical coordinate system. In a vertical society, you really only have two modes. You are either the dominant predator or the submissive prey.
So there's no middle ground?
None. So when their aggressive dominance fails against a hard boundary like the Swedish police, they realize they can't be the predator. So they instantly flip to the absolute bottom of the hierarchy.
Wow. So if they can't dominate, they play the ultimate prey.
Precisely. They're hoping to exploit the horizontal society's empathy. They recognize that Western egalitarian systems are designed to protect the weak.
So they weaponize the weakness. By screaming, "This is killing," they are attempting to morally blackmail the police.
Yeah, they're trying to paralyze the system that just thwarted their dominance. It's a highly calculated survival tactic, even if it looks completely irrational to us.
It is wild how quickly they can switch from the top of the hierarchy to the bottom just to maintain leverage.
Oh, for sure. And this ties into another behavior the research highlights, the speak Chinese abroad phenomenon.
Right, we see these viral videos of tourists demanding that shopkeepers in Paris or street vendors in Cambodia speak to them in Mandarin, and they frame it as this grand display of cultural confidence.
But psychologically speaking, the data identifies this as infantile psychology. It's a false cultural confidence that actually masks deep insecurity.
Because true cultural confidence involves being comfortable enough in your own skin to adapt to, local norms.
Exactly. True confidence doesn't require everyone around you to change. Demanding that the world accommodate you, often relying on the economic leverage of being a high-spending tourist, is just economic bullying.
It's like an overcompensation for feeling historically slighted, right?
Yeah, it's a way to reclaim dignity by putting someone else down.
But wait, if these travelers are suddenly wealthy enough to fly to Paris or Sweden, shouldn't that economic comfort erase the whole jungle survival instinct?
You'd hope so.
I mean, we're talking about people who are clearly benefiting from modern globalism. Why hasn't their civic behavior caught up to their bank accounts?
That is the big question, and sociologists point to a concept known as the 30-year civility gap. It really comes down to the sheer speed of the economic transition.
Like too much money too fast.
Sort of. In a very short period, essentially just 1 or 2 generations, hundreds of millions of people transition from a rural acquaintance society to a modern stranger society.
Let's define that for the Sip&Talkers. An acquaintance society means you only have established social rules for people you actually know personally.
Yes. In a traditional village structure, you treat your family and neighbors with strict respect because your reputation and literally your survival depend on it.
So the moral universe ends at the edge of the village.
Exactly. Strangers are entirely outside the circle of moral obligation. So when you suddenly take those same people, give them newfound wealth, and drop them into a massive metropolis or an international airport.
Which is the ultimate stranger society.
Right. Those old village rules just don't apply anymore. The public space becomes a jungle again.
Because if there is no inherent trust in strangers, and you grew up with the lingering trauma of historical poverty, the logic becomes, if I don't grab this seat, I will lose out.
Yeah, if I don't cut this line, I get left behind. There's no internalized rule for how to treat a stranger fairly.
Which brings up a central political paradox in the research. It's basically the ultimate chicken or egg debate regarding authoritarianism.
Oh, this is the defining debate of modern sociology in these regions.
The question is, do these populations require strict authoritarian control because they are naturally unruly and lack civic manners?
Or are they unruly because decades of extreme political control destroyed their independent civil society?
Right, because the authoritarian justification is always, without an iron fist, the population would descend into chaos.
Yeah, they claim the people lack the discipline for self-governance. But the counter-argument, the institutional determinism view, argues that top-down control actually creates the bad behavior.
Because it actively destroys horizontal trust between citizens. Think about the history there. When a state seeks total control, independent community groups, religious institutions, they all get wiped out.
They're intentionally destroyed. This was especially true during extreme political movements like the Cultural Revolution, which actively turned neighbors and family members against each other.
Just to prove their loyalty to the state. I mean, you literally could not trust the person next door. Your survival depended on betraying them before they betrayed you.
Yeah. It's tragic. Traditional ethics and horizontal trust were totally wiped out. The only relationship that mattered was your vertical relationship with the state apparatus.
And when a population is trained to only obey raw power and fear punishment, they don't develop an internal moral compass for public behavior.
No, they just behave well when the camera's on or when the police are watching. But once they go abroad or the authority figure is absent, the rules completely vanish.
I hear that, but I want to push back a little on the idea that this is entirely unique to this specific region's political history.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because if we look at historical parallels, the newly rich of 19th century industrial Europe were also viewed as entirely uncouth by the old guard aristocrats. Like, they had the money, but no manners.
That's a very fair point.
Aren't we simply witnessing the messy, compressed growing pains of rapid industrialization?
It's important to contextualize it, for sure. It took the West over a century of industrialization, labor unionization, and gradual civic development to establish our modern public norms.
Right. We didn't just wake up polite.
Exactly. So compressing all of that societal change into 40 years is bound to cause friction. However, if this behavior was strictly due to rapid economic growth or just the legacy of traditional Confucianism,
we would expect to see it uniformly across all of East Asia.
Exactly. But we don't. And that leads us to the East Asian Control Group. Why did neighboring countries with very similar cultural roots evolve so differently?
Well, the data points to Japan's Meiji Restoration in the late 19th century as a prime example, right?
Yeah. Japan intentionally modernized. But it wasn't just about building factories and railroads. It was a state-sponsored civilization movement.
They intentionally blended their traditional shame and honor culture with Western civic rules.
Yes, they used their education system to transform feudal hierarchical manners into modern public responsibility. They proactively taught their citizens how to act in public spaces.
And Taiwan and South Korea went through similar economic booms much later. What was their trajectory?
They had similar rapid wealth, but with the crucial added element of democratization. They retained traditional ethics, but merged them with the transition to democracy.
Because in a democratic system, horizontal trust is essential.
Exactly. You have to negotiate with your fellow citizens, you have to share public space, and over time, that structural necessity built high-trust, polite societies where civility is internalized.
It's not just enforced by fear of the state. And that brings up a really fascinating point from the case studies regarding Singapore.
Oh, the Singapore model. People love to misinterpret this one.
Right. A lot of authoritarian-leaning governments look at Singapore and say, look, they have strict one-party dominance, and their streets are spotless. The people are polite. We just need to copy their authoritarianism.
It is a massive misreading of how Singapore actually works. When imitators try to copy Singapore's success, they usually fail because they only copy the strict enforcement.
They skip the institutional foundation that makes it work, which is the rule of law.
Right. Singapore relies heavily on the rule of law. They have a highly independent judiciary inherited from the British system. The law applies to everyone, including government officials.
And they have real electoral accountability.
Yes. The ruling party has to genuinely deliver for the citizens, or they lose vote share at the ballot box, whereas the governments trying to imitate them use rule by law.
That distinction is so critical. Rule by law means the law is merely a tool used by the ruling party to control the populace,
while the rulers themselves operate entirely above it.
I want to try and visualize this difference for a second. Trying to copy Singapore's strict cleanliness and public order without implementing its independent courts and elections. It's like trying to build a massive skyscraper without pouring a concrete foundation.
I love that analogy. You can build the steel frame, and it might look incredibly intimidating from the outside.
But it completely lacks the structural integrity to hold society together when the wind blows.
Exactly. You cannot simply mandate civility through fear and surveillance. True civic culture requires institutions that respect the rights of the individual.
Which in turn teaches individuals to respect each other. Man, this has been a deeply revealing look at human behavior.
It really sheds light on so many everyday interactions.
Let's bring it all together for the listener. We've uncovered that aggressive boundary testing, the misinterpretation of politeness as weakness, and this stark lack of public civility. These are not genetic traits.
Not at all. They are the direct byproducts of historical trauma, the intentional destruction of civic trust, and the sudden collision of vertical survival instincts with horizontal egalitarian norms.
And we really must strongly reiterate a crucial nuance here. These behaviors do not represent an entire nationality or ethnicity.
Absolutely not. We are talking about specific behavioral patterns shaped by specific institutional environments.
Right. The sociological data makes it very clear that there is a new, highly educated generation emerging from these regions.
Oh, for sure. With international exposure and access to different viewpoints, they are actively pushing back against these jungle rules.
They're championing personal boundaries, rejecting the old hierarchical bullying, and demanding a more egalitarian social contract?
It just proves that culture is not destiny. It is shaped by institutions. And as the environment and the institutions change, so do the people living within them.
Now, I want to leave everyone with a final lingering thought to mull over. We've spent this entire chat analyzing how other societies' daily manners are deeply programmed by their political and legal histories.
Right. Pointing the magnifying glass outward.
But what about us? If our polite smiles at the coffee shop are just reflections of our own legal frameworks and democratic history, what other invisible forces and historical structures are quietly shaping how you interact with the strangers you pass on the street today?
It definitely makes you wonder how much of our own free will in everyday social interactions is just institutional programming running in the background.
It really does. Next time you step aside for someone at a coffee shop, take a second to think about the centuries of civic engineering it took just to make that simple, trusting smile possible.
That's a great thought to end on. If you enjoyed this conversation, please make sure to subscribe to Sip and Talk wherever you get your audio.
And hey, don't forget to check out our old friend Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickey to Life. Give it a subscribe. Thanks for hanging out with us, Sip and Talkers. We'll catch you on the next one.